So for nearly a decade, the biggest criticism of the iPad Pro was that the hardware was far too overpowered for what it could do from a software perspective. And every year, Apple would throw in little bits and pieces, little features here and there to make us believe like, hey, we're so close and we are almost there to the iPad Pro being a true computer replacement, but it always kind of fell short. But then last year, Apple finally wowed us with true multitasking and floating windows and resizable windows, the traffic-like Mac-like buttons, the taskbar and menu bar for each individual application, and we were basically almost there. The iPad Pro and all iPads for that matter that could support iPadOS 26 had some semblance of Mac-like feature sets. But now with iPadOS 27, with all the additional refinements, all the additional settings that were added, and all the small nuanced features, it really has put the iPad Pro on the pedestal when it comes to it being the ultimate computer replacement, and I finally think that we're there. So in this video, we're going to break down all the different features and changes of iPadOS 27 that really makes the iPad feel like a true Mac replacement. Comment down below, do you use your iPad as a computer replacement as it stands? And if not, why not? But let's break it down. Well, alright everyone, let's open up my iPad Pro over here. I'm using the M4 iPad Pro with 1TB of storage, so I do have the 16 gig RAM version. But again, that doesn't really matter in terms of what's running on iPadOS 27. But again, for the iPad Pro, the first thing is that you're going to see a much more mature desktop experience. So you're going to have three main ways of interacting with the iPad when it comes to a windowing standpoint. So if you go into your settings over here, go to your multitasking and gestures, there's three main ways. You have the full screen apps, which is the more traditional way of seeing all the applications. You open it up, you see what that looks like. You have your windowed app mode, which again, exactly what it sounds like. Windows your actual iPad apps, and then Stage Manager. It's a little bit different because it does go into the old way. I'm not a big fan of Stage Manager, so I tend to avoid that. But I usually go between full screen apps and the windowed mode app as well. But again, everything just feels a lot more fluid, a lot more infinite, especially when it comes to the floating windows. So for instance, if I just open up something like the Safari app, you can see that it moves very, very easily. If I grab something like, again, this settings app right here, if I move it around, you see how quickly it goes from iPad app to basically iPhone size app to full screen. And you can kind of infinitely make this as big or as small as you want. And it's rendering in real time as fast as possible. Whereas before, with the old Stage Manager and even last year with iPadOS 26, you were limited to maybe 6 to 12 different size variations before the UI started to get a little bit messed up. And again, that was all done on a per app basis depending on the developer, but Apple has natively changed that on the operating system, so everything by default is able to free flow even if it is a first or third party application. And you can organize this however you see fit. I can grab one of these windows right here if I want to, drag it out. Again, very, very Mac-like, because again, if maybe I want to have a couple things that are all under Safari. So I can open up the Apple website, let it float over here. It's going to go into that split view, which is cool. And all the UI just feels a lot more optimized for not only touch, but then also, of course, the trackpad and mouse situation on the Magic Keyboard. And now one of the key things with iPadOS 27 and iPadOS 26 for that matter, that really makes you hone in on making this feel like a desktop experience is that taskbar on the top. So over here you can see I have 3 Safari windows open, and I do have the taskbar. So I can click on this and go alongside of it, and you can see that I have all the different menus that I would normally have if I was running a desktop class browser. Let's go and open up something else so it's not just that. Let's open up Google Chrome if I want to. Google Chrome will open up. Let's go right here to see we got some new AirPods Pro 3 firmware, which just updated, but I can go up here and again, you can see all the different windowed modes and all the different settings you have access to via Chrome, and I can resize Chrome. You can see that again, it changes in size in real time, and then it adjusts based on what the actual native screen size is. Another way to open something up, maybe I can open up something like my Files application. And again, I'm just tapping it in. I no longer have to grab the app and drag it into place. So everything just feels more fluid. And there's different ways to multitask as well. You have your floating windows here. And then if I want to go into my multitask view, this is the expose view that lets you know, hey, your current window management or your current screen is running all these applications. And if I want to add something else, I can just go over here and add that one as well. So it's always cool to see. And then if you do have a full screen app open, then it'll just create that as its own screen as well. So just a big fan of how mature the desktop class browser looks like. And one key note here, especially when it comes to the actual menu bar on the top there, if you go to your multitasking and gestures, you have this new option in iPadOS 27 called menu bar. So automatically show and hide the menu bar. So you can see on the top here for settings, it's there. So if I tap that, it'll actually hide the menu bar. And if you want to access that, you just tap on the settings itself and it'll elongate it as well. I like to keep it persistently always there no matter what, just because it makes me feel like I'm using the desktop class operating system a little bit more. But again, that is a nice little choice that does help you out. So now before we continue, I want to take this moment to thank Paperlike for sponsoring this segment of this video. This partnership has always been an easy one for me because I've been using Paperlike products since 2018 when I got my very first iPad Pro. At this point, the Paperlike screen protector, the pencil tips, and the pencil grip are a mainstay in my iPad setup and have been for nearly a decade. Getting a Paperlike screen protector has always been my #1 recommendation to anybody picking up a new iPad, or if anybody has a current iPad and they want to have not only great protection for their display, which is the most important part of an iPad, but also to get that friction-like experience when using your Apple Pencil with your iPad. Because again, if you spend a lot of time taking notes, marking up documents, or working with the Apple Pencil at all, the Paperlike screen protector really changes how the iPad feels. The new Nano Dot Surface Tech adds that familiar pen and paper sensation that makes writing feel more deliberate and natural instead of just using your Apple Pencil on a plain sheet of glass. One of the biggest improvements Paperlike made this year was all about the installation process. Their new Butterfly application system was designed to eliminate some of the biggest frustrations that come with installing a screen protector, like dust, misalignment, and those bubbles. You also get the helper tool, which assists you through the installation process, and there's even an interactive on-screen guide that walks you through step-by-step how to install the Paperlike screen protector on your iPad. So again, if you're in the market for a screen protector, I highly recommend checking out the Paperlike 3. It comes in a 2-pack just in case the first one does have a few extra bubbles that you aren't happy with. You can remove it and add another one, or you can just share that other one with somebody else that does have an iPad. So it'll be the first link in the description below. Big shout out to Paperlike for continuing to partner up and support the 9to5Mac channel. Huge kudos to them, but now back to the video. So now, of course, in order to get a real desktop-like feel or laptop-like feel with your iPad Pro is you want to slap your iPad Pro on the Magic Keyboard. And watch what happens to my screen here as I'm screen recording it. I'm putting it on the Magic Keyboard. And then 2 applications automatically open up. And that's what's brand new with iPadOS 27 now. Basically, you can run a shortcut and run an automation that's triggered by the keyboard. So the second it hits the pin connectors, then it knows like, hey, he's ready to work, and he needs YouTube open on one side, and he needs Safari open on the other side. And you can even dictate how you want these to show up. If you want them to show up half and half, in split view, if you wanted to show it in quad box, if you need 4 different applications open. So again, the sky's the limit when it comes to that, but that also helps kind of segue into another superpower, which is a little bit Siri related, but again, I'm not trying to touch on Siri too much, because again, Siri is very abstract, and it ends up being whatever you want it to be at the end of the day, but command space, so Spotlight. If you command space or just pull down on Spotlight, yes, this is going to be the template to actually get whatever questions answered from Siri, but it's also a way to navigate your entire operating system. So for instance, if I need to search something like the vaccination records for my dog, it'll pull that up very easily. It'll open it up in the brand new preview application if it wants to, or I could double tap on there to open it up. It opens up in there, which is awesome to see. I'm going to blur some of this stuff out. But again, it's very cool how easy it is to use. And of course, with the preview app, it's much more Mac-like as well. So it's all these little refinements that make you feel like you're using a much more pro-level device. And the beautiful thing about this is that it's not just for the iPad Pro. It's for any iPad that supports iPadOS 27. But same thing happens with app launches. So if I want to open up an application, maybe I want to search for Peacock here, I just press enter. It's going to open Peacock, and it's going to open up in the windowed mode if I want to. I can then resize it if I see fit, do whatever I need to. I can then slap it over here to the left, which is another thing, right? Inertia and the way that you use your windows is actually better, in my opinion, than it is on the desktop of macOS, because you can just grab any of these, whether it is with your finger or with the mouse, and kind of throw it over to the side, and then it's going to go into split view automatically. And if you want to minimize it, of course, you can hit your traffic light buttons and press that yellow button to minimize it, or I could just grab it and flick it down, and then it minimizes the application. So there's a lot of cool workflow and kind of UI and UX expectations that Apple doesn't share that allows you to really use the iPad the way that you want it to be used, whether it is touch first or keyboard and trackpad first. And then when it comes to customization, so if we go into the lock screen got a ton of new refinements that makes it feel a lot different compared to what we've had in the past. So again, another quick thing that you're going to need to learn here is that normally if you wanted to go to your lock screen, all you had to do was swipe down from the middle. There's now 3 different areas of swipe down. You have the left, which brings down the lock screen. You have the right, which brings down Control Center. And now the middle does bring the new Siri bump or whatever that is. But again, you're going to have to kind of learn that from a muscle memory standpoint. But in the lock screen, you get a ton of new updates. So let's go over here and customize this. We'll press customize on my current lock screen. The first thing is that when I tap in here, you actually have the ability to hide the clock. So you can actually hide it. It's still going to show up. So I press this little button on the top right here. It's going to minimize the clock to show up on that little bar right there, so you have a clean and free and open kind of wallpaper if that's something that you want to do. And if you want to grab it back, go here, tap on that button, and it's there. Now this liquid glass slider has been there for a little while, so that's always good to see. But another thing is going to be the custom wallpapers. Now, people have asked me, hey Fernando, how did you get this custom wallpaper? How did you do that? It's native to Apple, right? You just press this button on the bottom right-hand side, and it lets you select as many colors as you want, up to 12 different colors. So if you have 75 different colors and you can pick 12 of them and 12 different ones at the same time, that means you have like over 1 trillion different options in terms of customization. So I can change this to whatever I want. I can just add whatever colors I want, and then it's gonna work its magic to then give me kind of this cool look, which I really like. See, 12 of 12 selected. It's a brand new wallpaper. It's custom. I press done, and then I'm good to go. So all that customization is awesome. And then another one, so if I go over here and we open up a brand new lock screen, let's click on this Mac Studio right here, which I was just taking pictures of. What's cool is that if you do have an Apple Intelligence or Siri AI enabled device, all the cool photo features are already in here when it comes to maybe extending the wallpaper. So for instance, if this is too big and I want to kind of crop down, you can see that the extend button does show up. I press extend, and then it's going to extend the wallpaper. It could take a moment, like I said, but I'm curious to see how well it does this actually, because depending on how you use it, it could be a little bit hit or miss. But so far, it's actually been really, really good. So you can see here, I didn't have a ton to work with. I wanted to have a little extra to work with here. Give it a second, and we'll come back to it. So then voila, there it is, and honestly, it looks really good. The amount of stuff that it added here, you know, made up that chair over here, my little Vision Pro in the background there, it elongated my actual table that it's sitting on, so I'm a big fan of how this came out, and it even kept like the same bokeh, because I use an f1.8, meaning that there should be a lot of blur behind this Mac Studio, and it was able to do that very, very easily. Big fan of how that came out. Of course, you can customize this however you see fit, add whatever you want, add widgets. So overall, a very good experience with the new wallpaper and lock screen stuff. And of course, you always have this cool kind of like refraction when you are moving the lock screen up and down. But overall, you can see that everything is just much snappier. It's improving much faster. One of the big things in Apple's keynote was just how they optimized everything. So apps open so fast. So if I open up, look how fast all this is opening. It feels like I'm using an M1 MacBook Air now or something, because everything is just opening so quickly, and it's able to handle it all so easily without any issues whatsoever. If we keep opening maybe the Files application, all these apps open pretty much instantaneously because they're all been optimized to run on iPadOS 27. Again, I'm using one of the later silicons with the M4 iPad Pro, but still, even on some of the cheaper entry-level iPads and iPad minis and iPad Airs, these things still absolutely fly. And then AirDrop has gotten much faster, file transfers have gotten much faster. Everything has just been optimized to make it feel as fluid as possible. And then I do want to bring up the Files app because, again, people's biggest gripe has to be the fact that it doesn't have a Finder window, right? Finder is one of the big things that macOS has, of course, but it's actually pretty easy when it comes to being able to customize this as you see fit. Now it's all fully customizable. You can change the rows. You can add more rows if you want to. I can select as many as I want. I can get the kind, you know, it's everything just feels a lot more natural when it comes to using the Files app, especially if you're somebody who's coming from the Finder application. So I do recommend going in here and playing around. You can press this button to really bring everything open if you want to. You can bring back the sidebar. So everything's very customizable. You can add folders to your dock as well. So if I grab the temp folder here, I can add it to my favorites or add it to my dock, go down here, and you can see that it's right there. And if I open it, it's gonna open this way, or if I want to, I can right click on here, which is nice, which is another thing. If you use your 2 fingers, you can right click on it, and I can do the grid version. So if I tap on it here, it opens up like a grid. So a lot of awesome refinements have come to iPadOS 27, which not a lot of people are talking about. So again, now I think we're at the point where iPadOS 27 is really hitting at the ceiling when it comes to software compared to macOS. Because if you think about it, the iPad is more Mac-like than ever. You got the floating windows, a persistent menu bar, you have the keyboard shortcuts, AI-powered Spotlight, faster management overall with all the different features and settings and everything that comes with that. But again, it's still missing some key factors, right? Of course, it's not running macOS. It has no Xcode, no terminal access, and it's still touch first. Although there is a rumor of that MacBook coming out that's going to be touch first. But again, the biggest gripes here that people have about the iPad, it's still no terminal support and no Xcode. But outside of that, if you don't work in those things and you're not developing applications and you're not using the terminal, iPad Pro is the way to go. But let's finish up the video. So as you saw, iPadOS 27 really changes the experience of what it's like to use an iPad because again, it gives you those floating windows, it gives you the traffic light buttons, it gives you better multitasking, better task management, a lot of different nuance and features that are in the background that are helping just optimize every single experience from point A to point B while using your iPad. And again, Apple's definitely put their foot down at this point. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where macOS will be on the iPad, but again, we're really pushing on that ceiling on iPadOS being macOS-like, and vice versa. macOS, little by little, has slowly started to look more and more like iPadOS as well, at least visually. So again, overall, I believe that for most people, the iPad has the workflow, has the capabilities, and has a feature set now to truly replace something like a MacBook Air or a MacBook Neo, especially for those people that know exactly what they're looking for. And again, I don't think Apple ever wants the iPad Pro to become a Mac, and they always want them to supplement and complement each other, but as a standalone computer, the iPad Pro and pretty much any iPad that can run iPadOS 27 can fully replace somebody's laptop depending on what they're using it for, but let me know in the comment down below. What do you think? Do you use the iPad in the way that somebody would use a regular computer? Do you use your iPad as a tablet? Do you like the versatility of the iPad because it gives you the best of both worlds? Always curious to know your thoughts on how you use your current iPadOS ecosystem, but if you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below. Big shout out to Paperlike for partnering up with 9to5Mac on this video and continuing to sponsor the channel. And if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, check out one of these videos right here. Until next time, Fernando, peace.